Hello, this is Neil, the art instructor at masterpaintingnow.com and Udemy. I'm going to bring you some digital painting tips. Now, these digital painting tips can be used universally in pretty much any digital painting program, although the program I'm going to be using is Manga Studio 5 EX, which you can find on Amazon for around 68 bucks. You can find just Manga Studio 5 for around anywhere from 20 to 38 bucks on Amazon. Really, really great prices, awesome software. I used Photoshop for 17 plus years, and this is now my main software I use. I like it better. Right, so first trick I want to show you is what happens if you want to, paint on, let me go ahead and close this window back here down. What happens if you want to paint, let's say, all the red on your image here? And the problem is that, well, you have all your colors here on this layer, and so it's like, well, how am I going to, paint just the red without going outside the lines, things like that? Well, a really easy trick is to go ahead and select, go up here to selection, and then select color gamut. Photoshop has something very, very same. It's named a little different, but it does the same thing. You select the color you want here. I'm gonna go ahead and put plus just to make sure it grabs if there's any more than one color in there. It shouldn't be because it's all one color I painted with. And that's gonna grab all the colors. Now I've already painted a dress, so I'm not gonna be doing that again. But notice it's grabbing all these colors here that I haven't painted yet. That's that solid red color on this layer. Now I'm gonna go ahead and click Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste. Now I can get rid of the little dancing ants, and I can click this little icon here. This is also in Photoshop, Lock Transparent Pixel. Comes in real handy because now when I begin to do a darker color, let's say pick this darker color here or here, when I begin to add this darker color on here, I can't draw outside the lines. Notice it's only let me draw inside that red area because that color pixel is locked. The little icon here shows it's locked to remind me it's locked, just in case I try to like draw outside the lines and I can't do it. So this is a really quick way to do that. And I like using this this kind of pen tool at first. And this is to lay down my block colors. And this is more, I think, in line with digital. What I was meant to try to say, I was saying digital, I meant it flows more like the traditional method where you can't really put down when you're first doing your brush here. If you're working traditionally, you can't really lay down a color or with your brush you can't lay down like a transparent. You can by thinning your color out, things like that, doing a wash. But typically when you first lay down your color, you lay it down thickly, and then you go in with a softer brush that doesn't have much paint on it or none at all, more drier brush, you kind of blend it out, blend it in so it's not like all hard lines like that next to each other. And I do a similar technique when I do like this. Now I'm gonna go get my paintbrush, and under the subtool, the watercolor tool, I like using the transparent watercolor tool. These are my settings here. So if you wanted to duplicate the settings, you can. I come here, I usually use a pretty small brush, and I use the same color that I'm painting with. I just lightly go over the edge here. And I like to add, a little bit of texture, by kind of after I blend this out. So that's just kind of like the traditional way, how you blend it out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a hard brush, like let's say a pencil tool or something like that. Use a smaller brush, size 15. Grab that intermediate color now. I'm just going to kind of click a little bit on here, just add texture. I'm just adding little dots. What this does is it kind of texturizes the material. You only got to, texture goes a long way, so you only have to add a little bit of it, like I did on the walls back here. Just a little bit like that, and then you have this kind of texture look. Next, I'm going to take the light color. I'm going to kind of add it into the dark color just a little bit like that. That kind of just breaks up the hard lines and makes it has more of a textured look to it. Next I want to do is I want to add a bunch of different colors to my hat so it doesn't just look so cartoony. Now if you like that cartoon look, you can just stop there even, or maybe add just a couple highlights. You don't want to just add straight line highlights, otherwise you run into of it looking like it's shiny or something like that. Now backlighting is really cool, and I did add a little bit of backlighting here, more like the color of the walls if it's bouncing off the wall and hitting her, and it's just very subtle. You don't have to always pop out your backlighting really strong. Sometimes subtle works really good. So let's go and see what everything is looking like. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead with the hat here then. Now I want to go ahead and add some type of lighter color. And before I use this kind of color here, you can see on the gamut color gamut wheel over here, it's going more towards the oranges. That is, I'm using more maybe kind of the skin tones and yellows and warm colors. If I'm using warm colors to highlight everything, then I'm going to use warm colors to highlight the hat as well, even though the hat's already warm. But I'm going to change it to more toward the oranges spectrum of things. Not as saturated either. And I'm just going to take the actual watercolor brush here and just add a little bit I'm not going to add it on the very edge there because that's not where it would actually highlight. And I'm also going to pay attention to some wrinkles, like right here. Just a little bit bigger of a brush. And maybe there's a little bit of highlight right in that wrinkle. Right, so this is I'm going to kind of add some darker color back over that. I call this cutting. You're cutting back into what you just drew. So I drew some highlights on there. Then I'm coming back in, I'm cutting into those highlights now. And I call that cutting into the color. And this is to add texture back to the highlight you just added. Now having just a little bit of highlight like that, does make a difference, I think. Now if you want to add a little bit more brightness, you can. Several ways to do that. One way to do it is you can grab your airbrush tool, for example. On this drop down for combine mode, you could choose like soft light. I wouldn't use add glow for this, only because what's going to end up happening, to show you, it's going to kind of looking like that. And if that's the look you like, that's cool. You can add just a little bit like that. It kind of adds some variation of color. But I like using the overlay here, or soft light rather. Already using overlay. Adding this a little bit of color here. Take this background color, kind of add it in there just a little bit to the edge. And now it kind of changes the overall color of the hat just a little bit. Now I want to take some other colors like I did here, like some blues and stuff with the background, and add it into the hat as well. As long as, you can add all kinds of crazy colors to the hat. As long as the majority of the color that's on the hat, I'll grab that background color, add to the edge here. It's acting kind of like a back rim lighting. And I can even take my pencil here. But anyway, as long as the majority of the color that you're using is red, then the object is going to still appear red. And I think a lot of people, when they do this sort of thing, they're kind of fearing that, hey, you know what, if I add too many other colors to my object, the red object is no longer going to look red. Notice it still looks like a red hat, even though I have all kinds of other colors on there. I might go ahead and add a little bit more super bright lighting here. I'm just going to use this brush here. Actually, I'm going to start with the pencil brush just to make sure that it's like that. And I'm going to take this and kind of blend that out a little bit. Right, like that. And I might even take that original red and kind of cut into this a little bit. Make sure I have more of that bright red so it still looks like a red hat. There you go. So now you can see the hat is matching the rest of her. And then I would do the same thing for her shoes. That kind of similar idea. But with shoes, they're more of a shiny like leather, right? Where this right here is more fabric. I'm trying not to go for that leather look, although I did add a little bit here to where it kind of pushed it. I think I pushed the boundaries a little too much with some of this here. So what I would do is I'd go to this layer and kind of just go back over this with a little bit of the color to kind of knock back some of that. Just to make it to where it's not as smooth, so bright. Something like that there. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of texture. I'm going to take my pencil tool here, grab this color and kind of just like to use a size 17 in this case. All I'm doing is just making a couple little dots here and there. And I'm going to go to this layer that way. Come back, cut into this color here. Let's go ahead and add a little bit of texture here. Oh, that's right, I had the lock transparency. Okay. I was wondering what was happening there, why I couldn't go into this part of the picture. I'm going to add just a little bit of texture here, not much. A little bit of texture goes a long way. Let's add a little bit of this brighter color in here. Now I'm going to kind of blend that out a little bit. That way it's not so hard. Right, so now I have the dress. It looks more like cloth. And if you want, you can still push that texture out a little bit further. You can take this here, add it in. Let's go size 15. Take this and it's just light little dots. And you can even add some of the texture go into the line work here. Take some of this color, kind of bring into this color here. Take some of this more muted color and then take some of this bright color and add it into there. So notice really where the colors overlap each other, that's where I add my texture. And doing that really helps texture goes a long way. It kind of breaks up some of the edges there and it kind of adds a little bit of texture to the material. You can also go and actually use materials in here and check out some texture materials and maybe add a little bit of texture that way. You can make noise texture, things like that. But I like to do it by hand and just add it here subtly here and there. I'm going to make this kind of blend a little better around that knee. Maybe make this part here and this part here a little bit darker. Add a really dark color right there. Dark shadow to the knee. It's here as well. Okay. So now when we do the shoes, we can definitely add a more brighter shine or sheen to them. And that's all just about using sharper lines where the light's going to hit. I'm going to go back to make sure the transparency is locked on here again. And actually, I'm going to unlock the transparency just for a second, take my ink tool, just to make sure that on this layer, I have all this filled in with red. Like so. And I think if I lock transparency, let me see if it'll let me draw on those new spots. Looks like it will, okay. So first thing is I notice this whole part here is underneath. And so add a drop shadow for the belt buckle there. And that should have been actually gray anyway. Some drop shadow for the pants, blocking the light. All right, so just kind of add something like that. I'm going to kind of blend it in a little bit. Now this, I'm not going to add too much texture, and the reason why, I'll get enough texture just from the brush itself by having this the way I paint it, a little bit of texture like so. And then when I want to add this nice and smooth, so I'm going to take a lighter color that's warmer. I'm going to go across the edge here, this top part here like this. But to really sell the idea that the shoe is made of something other than just like a leather or something like that, how do you add that? What you do is you take a really bright color, take your pen tool, make sure it's a smaller brush here, and then you just add thin highlights where you know the light's going to be hitting. Maybe there's like a little wrinkle right here. It's going to hit that wrinkle in the shoe. The edge here. And suddenly it adds a much more gleam and shine to it. And then you can do the same thing with the dark, adding even a darker dark, a little bit more desaturated. So it's almost like the same techniques you do if you're doing metal, except I'm doing like a shiny leather shoe, but kind of a similar idea. So that gives it more of this shiny glow to it. And then you can even take your airbrush, set this combine mode to add glow, go back to that same warmer bright color, and just hit the edge of it just a little bit like that. And that kind of makes it a little bit brighter looking. Right, so next is I have to do the Santa jacket. It's what it has that same redness to it. I'll be using these exact same techniques to paint the Santa jacket. All I'm be doing is thinking about the direction of the light, which is above her to the right toward us a little bit. It's above her. It's not directly head on. So it's above her right about this high, maybe maybe a little bit higher up here somewhere, and shining down on her. That's why it's hitting top planes of her breast and legs and stuff. And then it's to the right of her, which is why it's hitting more the right side of those forms. And then it's toward us, and so it's not hitting the very edge, it's hitting more here. So the same lighting I would add to the jacket, but that's not going to really be a tip. So let's go ahead and color something else to be another tip we can do. So I need to color this background here, but I have this already. I don't want to have to like paint over that. I could, or I could just make a new layer and make it easier for myself so I don't ruin any background. But in this case, it's just a wall. I don't think it's going to be that difficult to worry about. So I'm going to take a color. Now I just got to choose what color I want. I'm going to go to my background layer here and paint on that layer. And I got to choose. I'm going to kind of pull into this here. And notice with the curtain, I could add a little more texture here and there, like on the edge, like this. Just add like little, push this color and that color and this color and this color. Add little lines, and it kind of adds texture, almost like cloth. And it breaks up. You can do this with the ink brush or with your pencil brush. Just doing that little bit of texture right there, you can see how it adds a lot, just doing that tiny little thing. So texture, like I said, can go a long way. Right, so the plug, I don't know what color I want the outlet plug to be. I think I'm just going to go this darker color here. I'm going to keep those kind of a whiter color, the actual plugs themselves. This is a new outlet. I don't know if you've seen these new outlets. You can actually buy them at Walmart even for really inexpensive. They have the USBs built into them as well. So you have your standard plug, then you have USBs built right into them. So you don't have to use any kind of, plug in any sort of thing. You just plug in a USB cable right there to the wall, and it does all the conversion for you, and you can plug your phone in and charge it and things like that. Right now, once I have that color, I'm going to take a darker, a little bit desaturated color, and I'm just going to add a little bit of, I don't know if I even want it that much darker than actually. I'm going to kind of, to make this look like it has airbrushed, I want to, add that, but what I can't do right now, I'll go to normal. I can't really do that right now because it's going to go outside the lines, right? So one thing I can do is I can either select, since I was using the ink brush, it makes it easier to select this color. I can just go to Layer, Color Gamut, and just select that right there really fast and then do it. Something like that. That just adds that little bit that I need. I don't know why it didn't go into some of those, it didn't select some of that right there. That's all right. I'm going to go in here, add a little bit of texture anyway. Because, wall mounts are never like perfect. I'm going to add a brighter color to the edge here to show that, it has depth to it. It has three-dimensional depth to it. It's not just totally flat. It kind of comes out off the wall a little bit. Add a little bit of texture on the edge here, but same technique, adding the two colors together. Next, I'm going to take a slightly darker color and I'm going to add drop shadow. So this whole entire box right here is going to cast a shadow. And it might even go all the way down onto the wall a little bit. And if it does do that, sometimes I'll make a separate layer. I'll show you this. Actually, let's do that. So this will be a tip on how to do shadows, right? So do is make another layer here, raster layer. Do your drop down shadow, and then kind of have it come down this way now, like so. That way you're accounting for the form of the plug. It's actually going to change the shape of the shadow there. And then I might go like this, and then show once it hits the wall, then the shadow will be right there connected to the cable. And since this is going to affect all the background layers, no matter what I do to them, I'm going to go ahead and just add the shadow there now. I'm not really going for perfection here. Now what I can do is I can take this layer and set it to, let's say, multiply. I can turn the layer down like so. So now I have this nice drop. And I can take my eraser tool, let's say, and I can even turn this up a little bit, and just kind of erase some parts here where I know this, the shadow might be a little bit softer, not as bright. Now I got this kind of variation in shadow like that. Dun, 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 looks kind of cool and real. Right, so that's kind of cool. Now, what do we do if I want to add different color on top of here? Well, I can go back to my layer here, and I can add all colors I want. So let's say I want this to be a little more on the gray side. I can add that into it. And the plug, I don't know, let's say the vacuum plugs are really dark gray or even black. You just go in here and color this in. If it's something small like this, I don't bother using this one technique I'm going to show you on the vacuum. I show this in the Master Manga 5 course as well. It's a really cool trick. Not what I'm doing right now, but what I'm about to show you in a second. So let's go ahead and just fill that all in. I'm gonna come back in if I feel necessary and add, darker form shadow here and there. Form shadow is inside the object, not cast shadow, which is be outside the object. Is how I think about it. Use this brush here, a little bit of light color, and we'll just add a little bit of lightness where the light's going to be hitting the cord a little bit. Kind of changes it. We can also, even add a little bit of this color into the plug, kind of break up the total gray because it's going to take on some of the color surroundings. Let's go back to the pen tool. Now, here's a cool thing we can do here for the vacuum. I'm going to pick a new layer for my vacuum. And let's say, I don't know, I want it to be like gold and white or red and white or something like that to match her Christmas outfit maybe. So red and white. Let's go ahead and take that red color. I can take her exact same red color, this main color here. And let's say I want most of the vacuum is going to be red. There's going to be some white too, but for now I'm just going to grab all the stuff I want to be red. For now, I'm going to make everything red, just in case I don't know what I want red or not. And I'll go back and make white what I want white, and white's never white. So what you do is you run around the edge of the object like this. You don't have to color the whole thing. Just go around the edge of the object. You can go fast straight lines. You only worry about the edge of the object, like I said. Make sure if it goes off the page like it does over here, that you run along the edge of your document. Because if not, then you're going to end up getting bleed out. It's not going to, when we do the next part, it won't fill in. Now to fill all that in, you take your paintbrush tool, and there's a cool thing. One, make sure the closed gap is selected. I have it all the way over to the right. Follow adjacent pixel, color margin, area scaling, make sure that's clicked. That's going to really make the difference right here. When we click this, you just click once, and there's no, I can zoom in, notice there's no line on the edge here. Now watch what happens if I unclick area scaling and put it in there. See those little white lines right there? You have to click again to get rid of them. So to get rid of that, to not have to click twice, just click area scaling. I put it to 10, bam, it just fills it in, you're done, just that fast. Now I got my flats laid down, same way I had my flats before, and I go in and start adding my different colors. So one thing I might want to do is maybe right away, change the different colors on it. So let's say one thing here I'll do this trick. Here's another unique trick you can do. So I'm gonna leave this right here. It's on its own layer. I'm gonna lock transparency pixels. Take a darker color for my shadows. Make a big brush. You like to start with big brushes. Work your way down when you're painting. And I'm gonna take all this side. I'll add the form shadows in a little bit. So I'm not really sure what I want red and white, so I'm just going to go ahead and make all this tube right now. It's kind of lighter color. It's kind of reddish color. Now I'm just showing where the light's going to be kind of hitting some of these objects here. I'm just thinking about this big picture right now. Let's go kind of a brighter orange to make the edge of the line warmer, like so. And then maybe, because it's metal or plastic or something like that, that receives more light. That's a little bit too bright, so let's go ahead like this. And this is just to show that what we're dealing with is a metal to plastic. This has a little bit of roundness to it. Material here. Sometimes you can even break it up to kind of show. I'll come back in and do that in a second. So you can break up some of this to show what that basically what you have is like. Sometimes you'll have overlap of other object like cast shadows and things like that that kind of break up the highlights. So some highlights aren't always smooth all the way down. Sometimes you'll have other reflections and stuff in the metal or plastic that kind of break up your highlights a little bit. And there you have it. So now you have the main red part done. And then from here you can go, I'm going to show you another trick where you can choose the color you want in a different way rather than going and have to paint flats. One way to do it is make another layer and then paint the parts I want a different color, either kind of a silver color or this color over here to match your outfit. Another way to do it too is I can go in and go, okay, let's say I wanted this object sticking out, that's going to be one of the different colors. I can grab this marquee tool. I'm going to grab the lasso marquee tool, the freehand one, and we'll go along like this. If you find it easier to use the polyline one, you can do that too. That one you just left click as you're, right now I'm just free pulling it down. You pull it down, then you touch the screen with your pen or left click with the mouse button, and you just go along, make the shape you want, like so. Connect to the part where you started, and it completes the circuit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Edit. I'm going to go to Tonal Correction, Hue, and Luminosity. Now this allows me to change the hue and saturation and all that in luminosity. So I can now start to change the color. So I want it to be more of a white color. I can do that. I can take out a lot of the saturation here. I can also take out some of the hue, or not take out, change the hue to more of a bluer color if I wanted to. And even let's go that blue color, and then turn the saturation down even more. And take that color and make it even brighter. And that gives me a good starting point. So if I wanted it to be, a dual color vacuum cleaner. Now another thing I can do here with it is let's go back. Let's see here. Let's bring that back up again. Tonal correction, hue and saturation, luminosity. You can memorize, when you change a color, you can memorize these 3 points that you made it. And that way when you come back to do it again, you can get it exactly the same without having to actually do it. Now in Photoshop, it allows you to even save some of those settings. Another thing you can do though in Manga Studio is you can go to your actions, which is here, auto actions, and you can create a new auto action and record it, and then you can just hit that button. So that's a fast way. If you're making a lot of things, changing a lot of objects on here to that color, that's a quick way to do it. So let's say what we're going to do here is to make sure it's all the same color, I'm going to go back to before I change that color. Now let's go ahead and make a new one here. Add a new action. Just going to leave it at that for right now. Hit the record button. Actually, I don't want to hit the record button yet. I want to go ahead and do this poly lasso tool first. I mean, maybe I can go back to, let me see if I can go to edit and redo. Just want to see if there we go. Brings it back. All right, now I'm going to hit record. So I'm going to start recording my action. Notice it turns to a square, shows I'm recording. Go to edit, tonal correction, hue and saturation. Now I'm not going to have to memorize, what I do here because it's going to remember for me by the action. Let's say that's the color I want as a base color. Click OK. Now I'm done with my action. And I can even do this as part of the action to unselect whatever I select. Click unrecord. Now I have that action saved, so I can save it if I wanted to, but this is going to be a temporary action I'm just using for right now. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab other objects that I want to be that color. So let's say I want these squares to be that color. Not squares, circles. Here, hold down the shift key to make another selection, like so. And I think I might want this whole front end to also be that color. Hold down the shift key again and just draw along this edge. Again, if you like the polygon lasso tool better, you can use that. I have a pretty good margin of error here considering it's comic style, so I have the inking there like so. And now all I have to do to save time is hit this action, just hit play, and bam, it's all that color. It remembers what I did last time. And there you have it. So that makes things in life a lot easier. And now what we're going to do is just go ahead and we can add in our shadows and things like that under that same shadow layer. So go out to our layers here, and we have this multiply layer. Now you can go ahead and right click this and change the name of it if you wanted to. You can also change colors up here. And let's say I like using this color for shadow layers. It just reminds me, hey, that's a shadow layer, so I don't have to rename it. Again, I show how to do all this kind of stuff in my Mastering Manga Studio 5. So if you're interested in that, then that's where you can learn all of it. But here you right click on the layer, you go to layer settings, and then you have all these different layer settings. What we want to do here is change layer name. Now you can change it to whatever you want, like shadow, whatever you want to change it to. Oops, typing with one hand over here. Shadows. Right, so you can name them like that if you want to. I usually just use color coordinating, and that helps me know what is what. Usually for these type of layers, that is my layers I'm going to do color on. I usually change them to red. But yeah, you can come up with whatever color system you want. Yellow, white, I reserve for highlight layers if I have a specific highlight layer. So I'm going to go to my shadows layer here. I'm going to grab a color that is sort of similar to here, but I'm going to make it more toward the purple area, more desaturated. And then I'm going to just add in darker shadows here. This is going to cast a shadow onto this top part of the canister. And then this, the shadow's not going to drop down like that because the light is not able to see that, so it's not going to drop the shadow down this side. And actually, my bad, the shadow won't even go that way. It's going to go more this way because the light is kind of coming to above, to the right, and toward us a bit. So actually, we come that way. This right here is pretty much correct though because it's coming from above mostly for in relation to the plug. This right here will cast us a little bit of shadow when it casts much just because the light is coming from above. Like so. I might go ahead and just add instead of painting on this layer, I'm just going to add this dark line here. And I'm going to kind of blend it in. Like so. I could also go in there and add a little texture to some of that if I wanted to, just to show that, hey, it's not perfectly smooth metal. Sometimes there's little dings and stuff in it. Take this lighter color, kind of Put a couple lines and dots in here. Anyway, I'm on the shadow layer, so the light color is not going to show up anyway, actually. And we'll add maybe a little bit of drop shadow like this, because remember the light's coming toward us more and above, so it might push that way a little bit. And there you have it. So there's some tricks to it. I would go ahead and use those same types of tricks to finish up what's left in the painting, and then it'll be all done. And I'll go ahead and post it to DeviantArt when it is done. Right, so there's a little bit longer tricks and tips for you guys. I know that I'm going to try to keep this channel mostly to shorter videos, but that is a free channel, and keep the longer type lessons to the paid or subscription channel. However, since I didn't feel this was really a lesson, it was more just different tips and tricks you can do for digital painting, I decided to go ahead and put it on this channel. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed that. Of course, this painting is not finished, and it's hard whether you want to call it a painting or more like coloring. But it's using a lot of painting techniques, digital painting techniques. The difference is I'm keeping the digital line work there, the kind of comic-y line work, but I'm using painting techniques rather than just comic book painting or comic coloring painting, whatever. Comic coloring techniques, sorry. Tongue's not working. Thank you for watching, guys. If you found this useful, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed to get more videos, announcements when they are made. I make videos on a regular basis. I also have tons of access to free videos and my courses if you're interested, and also my drawing figure book. So if you guys like my teachings and my courses, and you want like a drawing book that's a how to draw a figure book, it's called How to Draw Awesome Figures. In fact, if you just type how to draw figures into Amazon, it'll be like the second or first book that pops up. And the name of the book again is How to Draw Awesome Figures. It's only $7.99 for the Kindle version. And by the way, a lot of people I think don't realize you can do this with the Kindle version. You can view it on your PC for free. You can view it on your phones for free. You don't have to have a Kindle device in order to view Kindle books. And also a really cool thing, when you view it on your phone, let's say like an Android phone, you can actually zoom in on the picture, so it makes it much easier to read and view the images within the book, even easier than on a computer. Another tip for a computer, if you do view it on the computer, you can either use the default program that's automatically installed onto your browser for the free Kindle viewer. It's kind of like in the cloud type view or something. And if you whatever viewer you use on your computer, whether you download one or whatever, they're all free. Then what you can do is you can go to your options on the thing. Let me see here. You won't be able to see this, but you go to your Windows. Actually, you might be able to do it here. Oh, here we go. Cool. So you go to your Windows here, click down to where you can see everything. Scroll over until you see what's called Windows Accessory. And this is in Windows 8. Windows 7 and in previous versions, it's a little different. Where you find it, you just go to your I can't remember what it's called right now. It's been a while since I used those windows for some. Oh, anyway, go down here to, where is it at? Should have been right here, I thought. Am I looking at it? Character map. Let me push pause. I don't know why I'm not seeing it. Should have been right here. Oh, there it is. I'm sorry, it's not under Windows. It's under Windows Ease of Access. It's called your magnifier. And your magnifier is really cool. So you can actually open the magnifier, and wherever you drag it around, it's going to make it bigger than what it is normally. And then you can actually change how big you want it to be magnified. So you can choose to be zoomed in a lot, zoomed in a little, and this allows you to be able to see, whatever it is as you scroll around here. You can scroll around to the edges of the screen here, and it's going to take you all over the screen and allow you to see different things zoomed in. So that's a way to actually view the Kindle book, and it's not going to pixelate it either. So this way you can actually view you can also choose different types of views you want as well. Lens, this will allow you to just zoom in on those areas. I think when you have it, let me go ahead and change the percent here. That's 200. Now when you roll this over, you can just see that little lens will zoom in all this area. And this is whatever way you find to be helpful to you, you can use either one. And so that's a really cool tip, a really cool way to view stuff. We'll go ahead and close out that magnifier glass. So yeah, that's an awesome way to view the book digitally. But for a few dollars more, for $12.99, you can get a paperback version of the book. And that way it's right there in your hands and it's in full color. So yeah. All right, guys, thanks for watching. And ladies, of course.